This is Reality Dispatch, written by Jim Minns.
Ed was 84 years and 93 days old. He knew at any moment his body would give out, and yet each morning his heart pounded away, allowing him to rise from another slumber. There were whispers for many a day now, or possibly years, that he should be living in assisted care. An experiment occurred some time ago, and a nurse named Alex made friends with him over a cup of tea in the rec room. Ed never liked to socialize with the other occupants. He didn't particularly enjoy engaging with Alex either, but the young nurse was nothing if not stubborn. That quiet, wordless conversation in front of a television blaring the morning show at a volume high enough for those with their hearing aids switched off gave Ed a sense of something he hadn't experienced since his youth: companionship. Not long after his short stay, possibly when the funds dried up, Alex continued their tea-time chats by making an effort to visit the old man once a week. Ed relished these days, always a Wednesday. He waited for them with bated breath. Tuesday was almost as exciting as the day itself, as the anticipation would manifest a euphoria that was matched by the abysmal come-down that Thursdays would offer. Ed held on to his time with Alex like a dog with a bone who hadn't had a meal in days. He would lie awake in bed and wonder when the time would come that Alex wouldn't show up and Ed's heart would be forever broken. The doorbell rang at 9:09, and Ed swung the unlatched door open, already having had it unlocked 2 hours earlier. "G'day, Mr. Silvesto," Alex announced as he always did. He held out a hand that was grabbed with force by Ed. "Greetings and salutations, young man." Ed returned the welcome. The two men walked Ed's narrow hallway to the back room where the TV was promptly switched off. Ed took his place in his ripped leather armchair, and Alex made haste in the kitchen for the tea. He knew the formula for the old man: half a sugar and a teaspoon splash of honey. 5 minutes later, he sat opposite the old man, as he always did, and they began sipping. "How did the Knights do, Alex?" Ed asked eagerly. An old Newcastle boy who had moved down to Sydney in the late 80s, he was forever the son of a miner. "They were kicked out 2 weeks ago, Ed," Alex reminded. "We spoke about this last week, remember?" "Oh yeah," Ed agreed, even though he didn't remember. Ed took a deep breath as he soaked in the hot liquid. "How's your mother, mate?" Ed asked. "She's good." Ed smiled. Inside, he worried that he hadn't produced a fruitful dialogue, and that such an outcome would lead to Alex no longer visiting. This would make Ed mad, and when he was emotional, he could not control his feelings. "My kids think you're only visiting me because you think I'm going to put you in my will," Ed said. A bemused smile appeared after he did. Alex smiled back as he took a sip of his tea. "Ed, you know that's not true." "How would I know that, son?" Ed asked. "We both know you don't have any money anyway," Alex said. The two men attempted to stifle a laugh, but were unsuccessful, and burst out in joy, allowing the tea to flicker from their mouths. "You're a funny little fucker. You know that," Ed said. Alex took a long sip from the mug and put the cup down on the coffee table. "That's the first time, in over 3 years, you have properly called me out for these visits, old man," Alex began as he wiped his mouth with his palm. Ed felt nervous. Had he blown the relationship? "Oh, I'm sorry, mate. Just a joke, you know," he said, in an attempt to salvage what he thought was growing tired of his hospitality. "Don't be silly," Alex explained. "You're right to ask me. I mean, you left Goodhue Gardens close to 4 years ago now, and I have to admit, there aren't many other ex-residents that I do visit. So why do you come and see me?" "Because we're mates, aren't we?" Alex said. Ed beamed with pride. Finally, he could be honest. "Yes, mate, we are mates. I have to tell you, I look forward to these visits every Wednesday. If my kids want me to do anything with them, I always make sure it's on any other day bar this one. I cannot tell you how much joy this brings to my life. Seriously. I cannot thank you enough, Alex," Ed explained. He felt as though a great weight of honesty had been lifted from his shoulders. He was lighter and happier than he had ever remembered feeling. This must be what joy feels like. At his age, to experience this raw emotion, it was better late than never. "I'm so glad you are being honest with me, Ed. These visits have meant a lot, mate. Since we are being honest, I have to tell you that they mean a lot to many others." And not just me, Alex explained. He stood from his chair. Because 3 years ago, when we first met, I tried to get as much information from you as I could about what happened at the Clapton View Hotel back in December 1973. You wouldn't even acknowledge any year past 1980. That's fine. I didn't want to push too hard. There were too many people relying on our friendship for me to blow it. So I took my time and I waited, and I made sure that I got your trust before I made my visits over to this place. Then I got briefings from forensics about exactly what items they wanted me to extract from your house. It started with drinking glasses, but you would have also noticed that used soaps were missing from your bathroom. The most audacious thing I took was your pillow. Did you not notice that missing from my last visit, and did you not think to ask me anything about it? Alex began to chuckle to himself. Ed felt the blood drain from his face. He was sinking into his chair. He didn't recognize Alex. The man standing in front of him was not the man who he had welcomed into his home every week. What did he say about 1973? Could he know? Not even Ed knew anymore. He had buried that memory long into a dark and dusty element of his subconscious, never to be resurfaced. Ed Silvesto, otherwise known as Duncan Antonopoulos. This morning I have received word from the forensic police that you are to be charged with the murder of Susan Dunkley, who was last seen alive on December 16th, 1973. It's been nice knowing you. I will now exit your premises for Senior Sergeant David McCluskey to come in and make the arrest. Alex led himself up the hall towards the front door and opened it to let himself out. Ed sat in silence. His hand began to shake. He felt drips of tea spill into his crotch and looked down to see his jittery hand making the splashes. He heard the ensuing commotion at his front door travel down the hall towards him like an out-of-control freight train. He was giddy. He was in a dream. He heard the yells of the police, but they were distant. He embraced the unconscious as he passed out in his armchair.
For more stories of fact-based fiction, head to jimmins.substack.com.